Hey everybody, welcome back to another video here today, and you're probably already noticing that this video is quite a bit different than normal. A lot of you probably haven't seen me. My name is Colin, I am Adam's business partner, and I'm more behind the scenes and in our product. So I'm not on the channel, I'm not really on the blog much, and what we're gonna do today is I'm actually going to interview Adam in a very casual, kind of just conversational way, and just give you some insight into the origin story, going way back to when Adam was in college and beyond, and career, and how the blog started, the initial growth of the blog, how I came into the picture, and where the blog is at present day and where we want to take it in the future. So this is going to be a super casual video. This isn't going to be a, step one, step two, step three. So if you're into that video, this may not be the one for you. This is people who want to, get to know Adam better, get to know us, and really just sit back and listen for a little bit of time and just kind of, see how we got here. And the point of this is not to brag, not to be, show off or not. It's just to tell a story, and there's probably someone out there, maybe you watching this can relate to Adam, me, the story, the business, and just to shed some light on what can be possible for you and just to have a little fun.
Yeah,
that's about it. So we'll kick it off here pretty easy. We're mostly gonna be having a conversation, but we're gonna kind of make it interactive. It's, we're not trying to have the best production quality like a typical video. And yeah, I'll just kind of get started here. So let's start from not the beginning, like we have the about page, which goes like way back to the beginning. We're gonna start where I think is most interesting. Let's start at college. So where did you go to school? And take us through like you at 18 years old, what's going on?
Yeah, so when I was 18 years old, I ended up getting into college at Michigan State University. And, at that point, I would say it's college for me was like you say the best of times and the worst of times. You get that newfound freedom, you get that excitement. You remember your parents leaving and parents driving away, leaving you behind, and you finally have that freedom and you're living on your own. Yeah. And I started doing well in college. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was always actually interested in like film production and media and things like that. But I would say that, college for me was actually kind of like a slow downward decline in a lot of ways. I started out doing good. I got like a 3.6 year one, then 3.0 year two, then like a 2.0. Then by my senior year, I was really struggling. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I didn't have guidance. My parents were really open to me trying things, but I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with my life. Mm-hmm. It was that paralyzing fear of like, I got to choose something I'm going to do the rest of my life. It better be good. And then not knowing that, I ended up just getting kicked out of college. I failed 9 classes in college. I remember I told my mom, like my parents weren't really checking my grades, so I ended up, they thought I was going to graduate, but I actually had to tell my mom, no, actually I'm not walking, and I failed 9 classes. I got kicked out of school. So I moved back home. I finally kind of kicked it into gear, and I actually finally graduated. But I graduated college in about 6 years. I had student debt. I had a degree I didn't really know how to use, and I had a solid, problem with alcohol at that point in my life. So, it was a difficult time for sure. I always saw myself as, being smart. Things came naturally to me in high school and stuff, but I knew I wasn't living up to my own expectations of myself pretty much,
So let's go back just a little bit. So in college, like you started off really great and then it just declined. Did you feel that this wasn't for you? Did you feel that like you didn't feel the pull to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or these traditional things that when, in American culture at least, when we go to college or university, it's gonna be like our parents are like have this grand vision of us being straight A students and all this, checking all these boxes. But what happened from the start of it through like just overall, because it's kind of a foreshadow of a lot of other things that happened along the way we're gonna get to.
Yeah, I didn't really have that traditional career path. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I changed majors like 3 times. I think I started in media, then I went to I think I was going into biology or zoology at one point because I liked animals. I'm like, I'll choose something, I don't know. I wasn't given that guidance, I had unless you go doctor, lawyer, I'm like, okay, I could go business, but I didn't have anyone telling me what to actually do.
Right, it was just
so
a kid.
It was just and then all the prerequisite classes, all the stuff I didn't really feel like doing.
Yeah.
And then it became it's freaking cold in Michigan. The whole semester's like winter really. So it's do I really want to go 2 miles on my bike to get to class, or I just want to play Call of Duty? So, sometimes it's I wasn't really responsible at that point in my life either. So, it took me a long time to learn that and grow up. But I didn't have the traditional path. I didn't have the drive at that age.
Yeah, so typically, college is going to be a high point. So from 18 to 24 there was a lot of highlights and a lot of lowlights, and it kind of became more lowlights towards the end there, and as it got done. So let's kind of move to the next chapter where you finished college, you finally got done, you got into some student debt, you kind of developed some habits and bad habits, and you weren't in the best place. So then college is typically I made it out, now it's time to take on the world, time to start my life. What happened next?
Yeah, so Well, I finished my college degree and I got a degree in media arts and technology. So it was kind of like some web stuff, yeah, some video stuff, but it was just kind of a piece of paper at that point.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to do with it. I ended up moving back home with my parents. And then, the bad habits continued. I was just drinking a lot, kind of miserable because I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I couldn't get out of this rut that I created for myself. So I moved back home. I started working at a pizza place. I was making like $9 an hour. And I did that for a couple of years, and I remember thinking to myself, like, well, this is it. I guess this is going to be my future. I got to this point, I'm like, well, I wasn't saving money. I wasn't doing much. I didn't have these good habits, but I'm kind of like, this is just kind of it, I guess. I have this degree. I'm not going to use it. I'll just have an average life, basically, at that point.
Yeah, so you were basically, 24 to 26 years old, making $9 an hour delivering pizza.
Yeah, basically.
And, when you were 18, it was more like, this is 8 years ago. It's almost a decade. Like the beginning of the decade is like, oh, like on top of the world at Michigan State, everything's clicking, things are happening. And then it's like flash forward 8 years later, it's like, wow, my life is completely taken a 180.
Yeah, and what I think it was is like, when you're going to, like, high school comes easy for a lot of kids, and then you're thrust into this college environment. And if you don't have the discipline and the work ethic at that point in your life, or you're prone to bad behaviors or, partying or these things, like it takes longer to grow up. And I feel like, based on that, I just didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah. So I know this story, but I want everyone to make sure this is clear, because there's a pivot point that happens, and I want to spend a little bit of time on this one. You were basically 26 years old, delivering pizza, making $9 an hour. You knew there was something that you were searching for, and you knew your potential was not getting reached. So what's that one event that kind of like shifted?
Yeah. So I realized, like, one day I was just sick of being miserable. I had woken up one day and I was like, it's another day. I'm going to work. I'm driving. I don't want to be doing this anymore. And, I started getting into personal development mainly because I'm like, I know that there's a disconnect between this blueprint that I wanted for my own life, this achieving stuff. I listened to Tony Robbins, and I learned about passive income, and I knew what it was, but I wasn't actually taking any actions on it. I was still kind of stuck in that rut. So I finally decided to go to some personal development seminars, take some class, like take some real action. And I went to this one personal development seminar in Michigan, and it was really intense. It was like a 3-day, 10 hours a day, maybe 14 hours a day process where you're really, interacting with other people. There's like 50 people in a room. You're doing all these weird exercises and activities.
It was a landmark, right?
Yeah, it was a landmark forum. And it's a little culty, little intense. Like, they have a lot of volunteers that work for them.
Yeah.
It's like, it was based on this training in the 1970s called like EST training. And it's like breaking down to the root causes and concerns of your life and why you are the way you are. And I realized that most of my life I was kind of scared. Like, I was put in, basically up to 25, I was kind of living a certain way. And it was based on fear from my childhood in a lot of ways. Like, I was kind of just had so many self-limiting beliefs, basically. I was put into a smart kids class when I was 7, 8, and 9 years old. And I was put in the magnet program. You're kind of separated from other students. You're put into a unique class. Everyone knows you're in that class. And I remember, like, when I was little and I would go into the cafeteria and I would strategically try to place myself in this certain spot in the line so that I wouldn't have to get near the other classes or anything and be picked on. So there's like 3 years of being picked on. And I realized, like, my whole life, I'm like, I just want to fit in. So that's where the partying came in, fitting in with everybody, relaxing, enjoying life, trying to do these things in a kind of destructive way.
Yeah.
It was useful for a while until it wasn't. But after learning these things, I'm like, holy crap, I've been living with this for basically my whole life up to this point.
Yeah.
And going through these exercises and really thinking about it, it made me kind of see what was possible. So after that, the next day, I decided to run a marathon. I was like, if I can, I want to just end this portion of my life completely. I'm done with the negativity. I'm done with the bullshit. I just want to end it once and for all. So I wasn't training for a marathon. I think the furthest I ran was like 6 or 7 miles.
Not a marathon.
And then after work one day at 5:30, I got off work and I just turned on my Nike running app, grabbed my water, and took off. And I was running around Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I ran through downtown. I ran around by a McDonald's, smelled delicious. I ran down by the lake, and like, I didn't, it was probably, I started around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and it was like 5 hours probably for me to finish this. And it was midnight, and it was like pitch blackout, and I'm finishing the last mile running through the woods. My legs are on fire. I'm pretty much dying. Yeah. And I could see like the moon through the trees. And I almost had an out-of-body experience because at this point my body was like shutting down. Yeah. So I almost like felt like I was like becoming like, I wasn't a human being. I was like this one point in time, and I was just moving forward. And I finished 26 miles, and I laid down on the hill, and I'm like, okay, this is something. If I can do this, then what else can I do? So I kind of took that into my career, and that's when my actual career started. I started trying to make some changes and actually push forward to build the life that I wanted to build, which mainly was how can I make money? How can I get an actual real career going?
Yeah, because that phase that you needed proof for yourself that that you weren't worthless, that you could live up to your potential, that there was more that you could achieve.
Yeah.
And at this stage of your life, the biggest pain point, and this is true for a lot of, and this could be, you could be 30 or 40 or 50 and be at this place, but a lot of people in their 20s, it's the success part is the career, financial, money part of things. Right. I mean, that's lacking oftentimes. Every year that's lacking. Every year you feel self-confidence just take a huge hit and depleted and just kind of self-worth, just worthlessness, for lack of a better term. Yeah. And this was like that catalyst moment that changed it. So now things don't change overnight. You can have a wake up, but ultimately your day-to-day actions and your patterns have to change over the long haul for things to happen. So what happened next after this? Like what was the time frame from this to kind of getting things started?
Yeah, so I started to actually develop day-to-day habits that were better. So I cut back drinking. I was eating healthier. I figured out I could run a marathon, so I'm going to start training more and exercising. And I was really focused on having no zero-sum days. So as long as I make some progress on something, I'm moving in the right direction. So what I did was I had some experience with digital marketing. So in my college, I did film stuff and creative, web stuff. So, but I they don't teach blogging, digital marketing, PPC, SEO in college. They can't keep up with it. It's too quick. So I was teaching myself a lot of that stuff. And, over the course of time, I took some certifications. I'm like, okay, I have a degree. Let me just get into some job somewhere. So I used my certifications, and then I kind of padded the resume a little bit. And I got my first job as a digital marketing specialist, basically.
And so you were 27 at the time?
Yeah.
27. Okay. So now this is the introduction to marketing, business, anything that kind of has a entrepreneurial trajectory. That was kind of the beginning of it. So first job, you're making 40 grand a year. You said 40 grand a year out of the gate. And so you're there for how long? 2 years, you said?
2 years, yeah.
2 years there. And then what's the next? So this is kind of where it starts to change. Basically, at 27, and how you view it as your life not life, but your professional life didn't really start till you were 27 years old.
Yeah, and I realized I learned through all of this that the self-limiting beliefs that I had as a kid were fit in, do well. So, I learned that in the office world, the politics of the corporate world, which I hated, I could actually excel at because I understood this, interpersonal relationship side of things. And I think that is the most important thing in a job and in a career is just how you communicate and interact with other people, how they like you. The relationships, not so much the technical skills, but the people that get ahead are the ones who have those relationship skills.
Yeah.
So basically I was promoted 5 times in 5 years, over the course of that. And the career stuff came easy to me.
Yeah.
But it was from learning all this stuff through personal development about myself to actually, do well in my job. So it was, quick succession. I never wanted to live the standard 9-to-5 life necessarily. I always wanted to excel. So I wasn't one that would just sit at a job for 5 years and be like, okay, I'll take that 5% raise every year. I like my coworkers. I like my job. I'm just going to work for them. Yeah, it's not. And that's I always had a chip on my shoulder from failures in the past. So I wanted to prove something to myself, I guess.
Yeah. So first job, went well, we're there for a couple of years. Then the next one is kind of where the exposure changed. So you started working for what company was it?
There was a company called Homedics. So I was their e-commerce manager.
And Homedics is in Macy's and stuff. They have they're a pretty large e-commerce brand.
Yeah, they're doing $100 million a year in Walmart, Target.
Yeah, retail and e-com. It's also this is 2000.
It was 16, 17.
Okay, so yeah.
So yeah, I was working for them, and then so I was doing a little bit. I was doing all the e-commerce marketing, email marketing, Facebook ads, PPC, SEO, all of it. And that's when I kind of got introduced to affiliate marketing as a business model. So I had never heard of it. My manager was talking about it as a thing that we want to do. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I was on the brand side, kind of starting the affiliate program there. And I didn't really like this job though. It was kind of a stuffy corporate setting where it was hard, blinding lights on top. Everyone was really quiet. It was not the best working environment. I only worked there for 7 months, and then I decided I needed to change because at this point I was making $70,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's kind of average, right? So I want to continue and do better than that. So I was laying one day in a float tank. I went to one of those float tank things, and I was laying in the dark in this pod, and I thought to myself, I'm like, I need a big major change in my life. I was living in Michigan still. I was 30 years old. It was negative 20 degrees outside. And I'm like, I need to make a major change.
Yeah.
So I started applying for all kinds of different jobs, Austin, San Francisco, New York. I'm like, I don't care. I just need to get out of here.
Yeah, proximity was the big change. Like I've noticed for me personally too, if you really need to like shake shit up, it's like the most powerful way to do it is where you location. Like it instantly changes all your routines overnight. Like you can't keep the same people, you can't keep the same day to day. There's a new living environment, new weather, new sites, new directions, everything changes.
Yeah. So I remember, I applied and the job was at BigCommerce. It was for an affiliate marketing manager. So previously I didn't really know much about affiliate marketing.
Bear in mind, he didn't even know that much about affiliate marketing. So you
A couple
didn't really,
months ago. Yeah. So they sent me like I had to do 5 interviews. I had to do an assignment. I almost didn't do it because I'm like, I don't really need this job. Like the assignment was kind of intense. It was like create a presentation and a slide deck on affiliate marketing and how you'd grow a SaaS affiliate program over the next 2 years or something like that. So I kind of made it up, and then I went through the interviews over Zoom, and then they actually gave me the job offer, and I was in Austin like literally a week and a half later. I had moved down and I was ready to go.
Yeah, so that was the change. Like it went from a slightly better than dead end job. Yeah. The pay was okay. It was a little corporate, but it was better than delivering pizza for $9 an hour, and it had growth. Next, and along this way too, this is when you started consuming a little bit. Like you discovered Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income. You started like these OG kind of podcasters and passive income guys. You weren't consuming aggressively, but you were just like aware of. Like you knew it was possible, and you're seeing affiliates and affiliate marketing and e-commerce brands, and you're becoming exposed. You don't still see it as a possibility for you yet, but you're like, I think there's something here.
Yeah, I had always listened to Smart Passive Income or Entrepreneurs on Fire. I read the 4-Hour Work Week. I knew about all these things. It's like, okay, there's the internet. There's this passive, the standard ones of learning about this passive income, how to make money online, whether it's e-commerce or a blog or YouTube or one of these things. But I didn't have the strategies yet. Like those gurus never taught me how to actually do it. They just sold good marketing stuff, They made a good podcast episodes, but they didn't tell me how to actually do it. So I was aware of it. But it was through working at this new job as an affiliate manager that I really started to actually see it in action. Like I was managing 4,000 affiliates. I was seeing brands, bloggers make anywhere from $2,000 up to $50,000 a month promoting BigCommerce, the e-commerce brand. And that kind of opened my eyes to that. Yeah. So on one hand, I was working as the affiliate manager. I saw that side of the business, how people negotiate with affiliates, how much money is being made in this space. And then I was working really closely with our SEO director, who was like on the cutting edge of SEO for a tech company, like how a major startup tech company does SEO and creates content and does outreach and writes and organizes content and the headings and the structure of posts. And so I'm like, this is really interesting too. Like if I know how to rank content and I know how to make money with this content, and it's this startup cutting edge technology world, maybe there is actually something to this. Maybe I can do something new that hasn't been done before. Yeah,
and seeing the affiliates of BigCommerce just crush you. You're like, wait, how are some of these affiliates like doing so well? Like you're like, you knew affiliate marketing was powerful, like it could be something, but then you're like, these random brands and websites I've never heard of are generating multiple 6 figures a month in revenue for themselves just through BigCommerce. It's like, wow, that seems insane. It's like, imagine like even a tenth of that would be absolutely crazy for my life. And that was where the seed was more than just planted. It was like, you started to believe a little bit like, I can do this. Like you didn't necessarily know all the how-to, but you knew that what you wanted your life to look like, and you knew that why you wanted it to look that way. So there was kind of a strong driver.
Yeah, and at the same time, I saw this possibility of success and maybe learning maybe I do know enough to make this work. I was also seeing what my future would be like if I kept this 9-to-5 life. Because I became, I was an affiliate manager, then I became digital marketing director. And then after that, basically there's like VP of marketing, CMO, right? Anywhere you go in this corporate world, in my career, you're basically answering to someone higher up than you, going over numbers in a report, trying to explain yourself out of a situation, having weekly business reviews, and being judged every single week on exact business metrics. And I saw that and I'm like, I do not want that as my future. No matter how high I go up in this career, I will never escape this rat race. I was still driving an hour to work from downtown Austin to near Lake Travis, basically. So driving there in traffic and coming back. I was working 50 hours a week probably. I know plenty of people work more than that, but I was doing weekly business review meetings. I was stressed out to the max. I was living in downtown Austin. So I had seemingly on the surface things seemed good, right?
Yeah, you had your affiliate manager turned director of digital marketing who was had a 6-figure salary, making like 120 grand a year, had a nice new truck, living downtown, everything. Like if you look at the outside and like check boxes, it's like, wow, 30 years old, this,
Yeah.
this. Like how things are only going to go up from here. But you saw early on of like, well, 120 grand a year at a job, and you're only saving after everything about $500 a month. It's like the quickly your childhood smartness kicks in of like something doesn't add up here. Like mathematically, something breaks really quickly when you're only saving $500 a month.
Yeah, when you think about the math on that, if I was making 120,000 a year, a good salary, after taxes, that's probably 80 to 90, and then you cut that down monthly, and you're making 7 or 8K a month.
Yep.
$2,000 is rent, a couple $1,000 for all your bills and car payments and all of that. And like by the end of it, I was not saving anything. So I was working for someone else's future, still stressed out to the gills.
Yeah.
The numbers were good. Everything was good. Like the company was growing. It was this pre-IPO phase. The numbers were like 30% every month, growing and growing. But to do it, I was like killing my physical body and the stress and like all of that just to do this.
It's a lot.
I even started smoking cigarettes at lunch because I was like, I need to just get outside. Get away from this.
Yeah.
So for me, learning all this blogging stuff, the affiliate marketing, SEO, and then being in this basically rat race that I couldn't see myself out of, that's when I decided to start the blog.
Yeah, so now we're in the mid to late 2018, like Q3 of 2018, and it's like, okay, you see the burnout, you've been in this new role for a few months now, and you're like, wow, the next is just VP, and then senior VP, and it's like those only get more stressful, and the salary increase isn't like 120K to 1 million. No. It's like, 15, 20% jump maybe.
Yeah, I think it's usually like 120, 150, 180, and max out around 240 or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. That's the cap. That's it. And again, that's a great living, but it's different when you're when you're wired and driven for more just fulfillment and achievement. The number is almost irrelevant. It's the game of it, where having that cap the cap could be $1 million, but the cap is still like, there's a cap. Yeah, like it's frustrating, and it's anxiety inducing in a lot of ways. So it's like having that be it. So 2018, you have already seen from the SEO manager at BigCommerce, you've seen these affiliates, you've been indoctrinated with the passive income like idea that it's possible. So the blog started. What happened out of the gate? So walk through the early beginnings of the non-WordPress day.
Yeah, so like I started, I didn't know what I was going to do with this blog, so I put it at my name, adamenfroy.com, because it was just a personal brand, almost like a digital resume. I'm like, that's not going to change. I don't know what niche I'm going to be in or whatever. But I could see that maybe I can do a couple, guest posts for BigCommerce, and I can do that, and I can have my name in the author bio, and I can link to this website of mine. Because a lot of other people were linking to their websites in these guest author bios.
That was the sophistication of our link building then. That was like we've learned a lot since then. It's like just show like how simple it started, like on Squarespace
So I started literally on Squarespace, which was very, not the smartest idea in the world.
Action was just took
action.
It
just took action. I just did it. And then I started publishing a few posts. And I remember one was on human nature and personal development. And I spent like 2 weeks writing it. Yeah. No one's read it because, it doesn't work that way anymore. But I was writing these different posts, just testing, tweaking things, and slowly building up a few links here and there. But I didn't really know what I was doing yet.
Yeah.
I knew what affiliate marketing was though. So I started seeing some early links and a little bit of success. Like I'm like trickling in impressions in Google Search Console basically. And I'm like, okay, something's happening. So I started writing some affiliate articles. Like things I knew, email marketing software, web hosting, e-commerce platforms, because that's where I was working at. And so I started kind of with that affiliate strategy in mind. And then I'm like, okay, I got to get off Squarespace because I've just heard all the stories. I was struggling with like simple SEO tasks in Squarespace. So then I had a developer friend of mine who I talked to. I'm like, hey, can you just set me up with a WordPress site? So I made the switch to WordPress, and I would say like officially launched the actual blog with posts in January 2019.
Yep, and that was a start. So that was when the timer really started. So what ensued over the next 6 months blew your mind. So let's walk through that, because that's where people really love hearing the start of the blog origin story. This is where kind of the rubber meets the road. So January 2019, you already have some posts live. You're starting to do some guest posts. It's on WordPress. Now it's like, it's time. So what happens here?
Yeah, so I started seeing a little bit of trickling of early traffic, like some Search Console impressions, a few views, a few visits. And
like single-digit views.
Single digits, yeah. I remember I would look at my Google Analytics on my phone before work, and I'd be like, oh, I got 5 visitors this morning. That's cool. That's something. It's more than 0.
Yeah.
And then that's when I really accelerated. I'm like, okay, I've learned what they're doing in the startup world from a content perspective, from a scaling these efforts. So for the first like 3 months, I still was writing everything myself, but I religiously worked on this blog. So I worked 50 hours at my job, and then I spent nights and weekends basically creating this content. creating kind of systems for it. So I wanted to standardize these posts. I'm like, I'm going to write a bunch of them. I need to make them quickly. I need to have it in a standardized way. And then I started shifting my focus to link building. So I'm like, I need to build authority if I'm going to be in this highly competitive niche. I really need to, work on that. So the first 3 months, I didn't hire anybody. I was just grinding it out myself, publishing a lot of affiliate posts, a lot of how-to and informational content, but shifting like 80% of my focus to link building, to build like real relationships in the blogging niche, get backlinks, and do all of those things. So that's like month 3. Then I hired my first writer, and that's when I like could really spend time on link building outreach, accelerating, the publishing schedule, publishing a lot more. I was still publishing probably 2 blog posts a week, maybe. So it wasn't anything crazy. And maybe sending 5 or 10 outreach messages a day for link building. So I was doing these things, but I was kind of doing it with the latest tactics that I learned from my job, from the actual startup world. How to exactly format this stuff for Google, how to add affiliate links into content, how to do link building, how to do outreach. Basically blogging in 2019, 2020, not from people that teach it from 2010, because the world is so much different now. It changed so fast. So I started, it started actually working. So the 5 visits a morning became 10, then 15, then 20. Then I was getting thousands of visitors to the blog every month. Within 6 months, by July of 2019, my blog was making as much as my full-time salary. So I'm like, that's when I decided I'm going to quit. It's when it makes as much as the 120,000. When I make 10,000 a month, that's when I'll make the leap and I'll leave. So by month 7, it was making that, and that's when I left.
And the leap of faith of that is interesting, because it's like, even though it was making 10 grand a month.
Actually, it was funny. I thought it was making 10 grand. It was actually making like 5 or 6.
How did you mess that up?
I don't know. I messed it up. I like attribute it wrong or something. I overcounted. So I actually was only making like 5 or 6 grand a month. But I'm like, after I quit the next month, I made like 22 because I'd spent all my time on it. So it was like the leap of faith worked.
And it was you had enough to quit. You were ready to spend all your time on it and just get out of the stress, get out of that feeling that just wasn't for you. Like, some people love the pressure and the stress. They love the grind of that. But for you, it just wasn't working. So you were willing to sacrifice like 6 months of nights and weekends and the fun you got accustomed to living in Austin and a very cushy life. It's like you had just enough money to be comfortable. You could do anything you wanted and save just enough, and you never missed a meal. Like, that's about how it went. And the next 6 months were very difficult from a work focus standpoint. But then full-time job. Then what happened from month 6 to about, maybe even when we met, like let's go to actually March of 2020. Let's go like 17 months.
So July, I left my full-time job. I remember leaving, walking out of the building. I actually was nice, and I gave like a 4-week notice because my job was pretty important. I didn't want to leave them high and dry, so I gave a 4-week notice. I left my job, and I remember actually walking out, and I had to come back at one point. I actually got physically stressed when I walked back into the building. I didn't realize how bad it was. But after that, I went back. I packed my things up in Austin because I no longer had to work and live there. So I moved my things back to Michigan, where my family's from. I kind of packed my stuff in my brother's house, then I started traveling. So I went to Spain, Italy, France. I lived in Ireland. I flew to Japan. I lived in Kyoto for 3 weeks. Then I went to Australia. I lived in Sydney for a couple weeks. Went to Thailand. I lived in like 7 countries. I think I lived in 13 Airbnbs in a row over the course of like 6 months. So it was completely different. A year ago, I was basically slaving away at this thing. And then I took some time off because I'm like, hey, if I'm making $20,000 or $30,000 a month, I can afford to do this right now.
So from month 6 to about the next 6 months, your income went from about 10,000 to about 20 to 30,000, depending on income, right?
Around there.
And there was a hybrid of affiliate revenue and a little bit of consulting, but that's when the affiliate revenue really started to pick up. So now we are in February, March of 2020. So if you're watching this, you know what happened in the world. So what happened to the blog, though? This is really interesting.
So I had moved back to Michigan because I was kind of done traveling. 6 months of solo traveling was kind of a lot. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go back home. And I moved back to Michigan because I'm like, that's where my family and friends are all from. And then it's wintertime, COVID hits, and the blog's kind of just stagnating. I'm just kind of working on it. And it is what it is at this point. I'm like, everyone's under lockdown at this point, basically. I'm just kind of working on stuff at home. It's humming along. And then being in the software niche when COVID hit was actually really interesting because search volumes for things like Zoom, webinars, video conferencing, and these things that I was writing about ballooned. I remember like this webinar post I had on webinar software went from making $2,000 a month up to $25,000 a month in just 1 month because everyone was searching for all this software and webinar stuff. So like that ballooned. And then Another post on podcast hosting balloon, and it was like, at this point, it was probably more like $80,000 a month and very little work. Like I'd put the work in up front, but now I was just kind of coasting along, focused on affiliate revenue, living at home during this pandemic, and it was kind of, working on the blog maybe 10 hours a week.
Yep. And it just spiked. It just took off. And it's where like opportunity hits like an inflection point where it's like you had all this work built up for months and months, over a year now, and you had all the keywords that were emerging trends, and all this stuff that we talk about now and teach was literally exactly like prime for an unforeseen event. Now, it was still growing in popularity, but it just stepped in the gas pedal, like more than you could have ever imagined. So it went from cool 200 grand a year blog that was crazy passive to on run rate for a 7-figure business within the course of a 30-day span. And the part that blew you away probably even more is that it stuck.
Yeah, what was interesting is like, so the webinar and some of the terms from COVID like peaked in March and April, probably April, a little bit of May, and then it went down, but everything was growing. Everything was growing. It was like the consistent approach to content and link building was working, and it was on autopilot growing. And so in 2019, the blog made 200K. By the end of 2020, it made $800,000 that year.
Yeah, so huge jump.
Huge jump.
And to paint the picture too, that was mostly just you, a writer, and an outreach assistant.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
It was a tiny team. And it was like basically like, was it 85% margins that year?
85, yeah.
Yeah, 85% margin. So basically a bank account, essentially, and like an ATM machine. So it was crazy. And then that's where your mind was kind of blown. So 2020 was going along great, and enter stage left, I come into the picture around October, November of 2020. How this came about, we knew each other sort of knew each other. They just got connected about a year prior. And then a mutual friend of ours connected us again to create a blog growth engine, the blogging course that you were procrastinating on for many months. And it just, ended up working out great, but that was, procrastinated. You kind of needed like some push, because the interesting thing that happened is you strive for this passive income. And then it was like, okay, well now what?
Yeah.
It was like the money blew away your wildest expectations, and now it's like, now what?
Yeah, you make it to a certain level. So I remember I was making like $80,000 a month, kind of on autopilot, not doing a whole lot. And I was like, okay, what's next? Well, for 3 months, I was kind of on this COVID lockdown in 2020, and I'm like, this is kind of boring. Like there's no progression here. The only way I'm going to go is down again and boredom. So, and I knew like affiliate marketing and SEO really well, but I didn't know the information side of the business as well. And I'm like, I need help with this thing. This is something I don't know. And I was building the email list. So we had probably 40, 50,000 people in the email list. We were ranking for some blogging terms. I was doing blog income reports, teaching this stuff, but I had no product to sell yet, basically.
So over the next 7 months, we worked on building the program, and we had a beta group, and we vetted the content, and we filmed it, and you got on camera. Everyone who's watching this, you should have seen him on camera like a year ago. It was pulling teeth to get a 10-minute video done. And all this stuff progressed, and then the blog just kept growing. It just kept humming along. Traffic kept increasing, revenue kept increasing, commissions kept increasing. It's just going up and up and up. And flash forward to 2021 in June, life was getting even crazier. So all within the span of, I kid you not, everybody, in the span of 4 weeks, we launched the course to over 250 students. You got married, and everything just took off even more.
Yeah, June 2021 was like a defining month. The course launched to, over 250K. I can't remember the exact numbers. I got married. And earlier that year I moved to Florida.
Right.
So tons of life changes in that span of time. And it was a pretty defining moment, because we look at, I didn't realize what a blogging business or what a personal brand could actually be. I was stuck in like affiliate revenue and SEO. Then we saw, okay, the information and course business. Now affiliate, we want to be people that teach this stuff that actually still do it, right? So like we always want like the affiliate model still making more than the course, and we're teaching this stuff to students, because a lot of people selling blogging courses, they're either on YouTube and they have...
All they do is focus on the marketing of their program.
Yeah.
Or we actually spend probably 70% of our time or more on the blogging side of the business, and only about 30% on the program and all this other stuff.
Yeah, YouTube is still new.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was a really defining month. And then we started, as we started working together more, we're like, okay, Colin's not just going to be the course, information side of the business. He's going to be a business partner now, because we see not just the success with the course business, but also all these other revenue streams where it's like, we're going to go from one revenue stream to 2 to 3. Now
now
we're
we're
at
at
like
6.
6.
Yeah.
And it just keeps growing and growing. And we're starting every month, we unlock some new interesting thing to see, how we can scale this growth.
Yeah, we can scale the blog and then teach it to everyone. That's kind of like the progression we've been doing. And it's like seeing the growth from June 2021 till now. 2021 finished at about 1.5 million in revenue. And the crazy thing is that the backbone of it's still the blogging business, but from 2021 to now 2022, we're focused on 4 million. So 2.5xing what was already doubled from the year before. And it's like, this is all based on the exact stuff we're doing, learning, failing, losing money at, and then ultimately teaching the things that end up working.
Yeah, what's interesting is like I've always wanted to teach this along every step of the way. So I did blog income reports when I first started.
Yeah.
The first months I showed I made like 10 grand one month, mostly consulting, all the way up to we just did the YouTube video blog income report 1.5.
Yeah.
And our reasonable and attainable goal for 2022 is around $4 million.
Yeah.
And that's like probably going to happen. We'll see. If we don't hit it, fine. But we're going to
that's what we're kind of pushing
And as
for.
we grow, it's like, okay, what did we learn as we got from 0 to 1 million?
Mm-hmm.
What can we teach? What did we learn getting from 1 to 4? What are these revenue streams? Like we're finding all these different unique ways you can make money with a content-driven business.
Yeah.
There's not just affiliate revenue, but there's filling in the gaps with sponsorships and CPC models and ad revenue and course sales and how you're selling a course and email funnels and pop-ups and all these different things and learning as we go, growing this thing, every month.
Yeah. And that's kind of where, we're at present day. So recording this now, it's going to be live in sometime in February probably, and February 2022. So we're kind of just getting into the year here. And, we're seeing is what we're trying to get across to everybody in the program and the YouTube videos to come is like, the blog is just like a part. The blog can become, a lot more. That's what we're trying to show. Like the brand of you that we talk about in our program is like, this is what can become something crazy. Like the blogs could disappear in 5 years, but this pivotable asset of you, this YouTube channel, social media, media buying, like this is always so pivotable. And that's what we've really found to be true is like people buy from people. People want to learn from other people. And we're just testing. We had a theory and we're testing it out in real time, getting crazy results with it as we go.
Yeah, and the ability to pivot and use your personal brand is really important. So if we look at my schedule in 2022, I'm spending most of my time on YouTube now.
Right, video.
So the blog, as we grow and scale this 7-figure team to 8-figure team, everything that we do is to put people and systems in place so that we can create more content, get more eyeballs on our stuff and, make more money. And to do that, it's, okay, the blog is kind of taken care of. The content management is good. We've trained, we've hired, we've done these things. Now it's like, now I'm exclusively mainly working on YouTube as the traffic generator.
And teaching
and product and teaching and coaching and being on video and all of these things. So we learned that not many people are teaching this way to make, build an audience through like YouTube and a blog, building this personal brand engine, which is basically this hybrid, unkillable business for yourself.
Yeah, and we have like, 6 legitimate, stable revenue streams that, 2 years ago, you would have taken one of those. Yep. Now they're sprouting up like crazy because of the attention and audience that is getting built at such a rapid pace. So that's the kind of the power, and that's kind of where we're at now. Like, 4 million this year, and we have like a 2 to 3 year vision to get to over 10 million a year. And it's like, it's when you have this pivotable, fluid-based business, we call it the unkillable machine. It's like, sure, one revenue stream gets killed, but there's 5 more that are just as powerful. It's like, it's hard to, and they're all coming from different places. It's not just one product, one thing goes wrong in an algorithm and it's over. It's like, we're so diversified now, and really teaching that and showing that is what we're locked in on, like starting now and even into the future.
Yeah, and I remember looking back on it, like the goalposts keep changing.
Yeah.
I remember I wanted to make $500 with my blog a month, and then it was 5,000, and then it was 10, and then it was 50, and then it was 100. Now we're like consistent baseline of 200 to 250K a month, and it's like, well, we need to get to 800,000 a month to make 10 million.
Yeah. And how many people is that going to be helping? How many students? Like it's so much. The vision and the mission changes as it gets more, because the utility in life of going from 250 grand to 300 grand a month is like extremely minimal. It's very minimal. Even to 800, it's minimal. But the exciting part is the growth, what it is, who you become along the way. And even going from like 8 grand to 50 grand for anyone watching, like, or even a grand to 8 grand, that is like who you become along the way is what's even more powerful.
That's the valuable. And it's really important to know that there is no finish line.
Yeah.
You get to a goal, you feel good and accomplished for a little bit, but then, you build a new goal. And it's really important to have gratitude for what you currently have. Like my life is a lot better today, just on, looking from outside, like what I actually have to do every day. I wake up, I have some coffee, I spend time with my wife, I shoot a YouTube video, I don't have to worry about work, all of that. So that's all very great, and like the money helps. But there is no finish line to this thing.
If you stop pushing, you get significantly less happy.
And so we passed all these old gurus that I learned from, relatively short period. 2-3 years, it's like, okay, we're making more than all these people that taught it 10 years ago, and we did it faster. But then you just enter, you're the smallest fish in a larger pond every time. And then it's like, okay, what is this media company doing? What is like a Red Ventures website doing, or NerdWallet, or these huge brands?
What are large education companies doing? What are large YouTube channels doing? It's like there's just different levels to this shit as you go along.
Always different levels, but learning from 0 to your first money to $1 million, and then as we grow to 10 and as we continue, it's important to kind of understand these concepts, what to focus on, what to actually do. So it's very exciting. You know, I wouldn't think this would have happened, but it's exciting to keep learning it and keep teaching it as we learn.
Yeah. So that's it. That's where we are present day. So I wanted to do this video here. I had this idea to just do a really long, raw interview of just like, you know, it's kind of taking pieces from the About page and the blog to random videos you sent back, you know, about a year ago now, and just trying to piece everything together the best we can. So yeah, there is no intense call to action here. This is just to share. You know, if you want to see more videos like this, you're new to Adam's world, you're new to the channel, you're new to us, feel free to check out all of our links below. You can subscribe to the channel. And yeah, that's all we got. Anything you want to add?
No, just look out for more YouTube content every week. So we're just going to keep pushing, creating more content, teaching you how to, you know, capture this attention, YouTube, Google, all the latest stuff in the 2020s, how to actually grow.
Yeah, so we got. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see everybody in another video.